Breakfast and brilliant ideas, coffee and conversation, we're serving up that and much more at IBJ Media's events. Join us at an upcoming event and kickstart your day with fresh ideas and new connections. Check out our event lineup and register now at ibj.com/RSVP.
This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Monday, April 6, 2026. I'm Alex Brown. An Indiana entrepreneur has acquired a producer of USDA prime beef headquartered in the White County town of Reynolds with an eye toward growth, including national distribution. Steve Hirschberger, an Evansville native who now lives in Carmel, acquired Honey Creek Legacy and has rebranded the company as Legacy Maker Farms. Chief Marketing Officer Ian Baer.
It really clicked for Steve in terms of an opportunity to take a company that had a really superior product and bring everything that he knows about how to operationalize and deliver that at a higher level to more people across the country. And it just became a personal passion project.
Financial terms of the acquisition were not disclosed. Indianapolis-based TechPoint has named local tech executive Eric Christopher as its new president and CEO, following a nationwide search. Christopher has more than 20 years of experience in securing venture capital and scaling high-growth software companies. In 2016, he co-founded the software firm Xylo, which earned TechPoint's Mira Award for Scale-Up of the Year in both 2020 and 2023. As concerns over rising utility costs continue, Merrillville-based Northern Indiana Public Service Company announced Sunday that it will extend its moratorium on service disconnections for non-payment through May 15th. The utility said the move is part of an ongoing effort to support customers dealing with rising everyday costs. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media podcast network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at ibj.com to learn more.
The Secretary of Indiana's Family and Social Services Administration wants to change how hospitals purchase discounted drugs for low-income patients, a controversial move that critics say could jeopardize rural hospitals and clinics for low-income Hoosiers.
A proposed rule change introduced in February would eliminate access to a federal drug discount program known as 340B, which supporters say is a lifeline for rural hospitals and health clinics serving low-income patients. Secretary Mitch Rube contends the program is being misused to subsidize hospital profits at taxpayers' expense without passing savings onto Medicaid patients as intended. Instead, the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning would seek drug manufacturer rebates through a separate program, the Medicaid Drug Rebate Program. If enacted, the rule will take effect July 1st. State officials estimate it could save Indiana around $60 million a year. Leaders from several rural hospitals participating in the program say they operate with such thin margins that any loss in savings could result in cuts to cancer care, obstetrics, and other services without any nearby clinics to fill the gap. Rube said in a statement to the Indiana Capital Chronicle that no federal law guarantees hospitals the right to retain revenue derived from prescriptions funded by a taxpayer-supported program. He said the proposed state plan amendment ensures that savings associated with Medicaid beneficiaries remain within the Medicaid program. Abriana Herron, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
More than $10 million in infrastructure upgrades are now complete at 2 Indiana facilities and 1 in Ohio that will improve how farmers meet their fertilizer, herbicide, and pesticide needs. Indianapolis-based Keystone Cooperative said the improvements to the Bremen Agronomy Center in Bremen, the Frichton Agronomy Center near Vincennes, and the El Dorado Agronomy Center in El Dorado, Ohio, will enable faster turnaround times, precision mixing capabilities, and more efficient workflows. Such facilities are used to safely store, mix, and load fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides in bulk. As UConn prepares to take on Michigan in the finals of the 2026 NCAA Men's Basketball Championship tonight, the city of Indianapolis is once again in the national spotlight by hosting its 9th NCAA Final Four. Visit Indy Executive Vice President Chris Gall says the city is hosting more than a dozen executives representing major conventions, and the full-court press is on to impress them.
It's very impactful that we'll walk them down Georgia Street to see the Signia and the Convention Center expansion. Through renderings and now in person, we'll be able to show them traction yards. And then at the end of Georgia Street, there'll be a new Ritz and a Live Nation venue and a Fever practice facility. That's a pretty compelling 3-block walk if you're thinking about booking Indianapolis into the future, set against this big event, the idea that we're growing from a tourism perspective.
This year's Final Four is expected to generate more than $400 million in economic impact. Indiana's storied basketball history is the subject of this week's Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports and entertainment, and beyond. Available now on the IBJ Media app or your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand.
Off the Record with Indiana's 250 most influential business and community leaders is a podcast that peels back the curtain on Indiana's most respected leaders, one episode at a time. Go beyond the headlines and hear the stories of grit and innovation that shape these leaders. Do you want to know who's driving our state forward? This is a must listen. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts or at ibjpodcast.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.